Hull City beat Manchester United 2-0 at the MKM Stadium on the opening weekend of the Premier League season. It was Hull's first top-flight win in 10 seasons, and it came against a side many pundits had tipped for a top-6 finish. Within minutes of the final whistle, Tony Cascarino was on TalkSport delivering one of the sharpest breakdowns of the weekend, and the numbers backed up every word of it. The scoreline was built on two set pieces. Defender Seamus Coleman, named in commentary as Jide, opened the scoring in the 17th minute. Then Hull's club record signing, Noel Mendy, playing his debut, doubled the lead around the 38th minute. Both goals came from dead ball situations, and that detail became the central thread of everything said about the match afterward. Before we get into exactly what went wrong for United, if you're new to Final Whiz, this is where you'll find honest, no-filter breakdowns of every big Premier League result, not just the highlights, but the reactions that actually explain what happened. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell us in the comments what you made of United's opening day collapse. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and we read every comment. United manager Michael Carrick addressed the result directly after the game. He admitted the team had anticipated the challenges Hull would pose and were not caught off guard by the overall approach. What frustrated him was the manner of the goals conceded. In his own words, Hull done us with two set plays. Carrick maintained that there were positive elements in the performance that were overshadowed by the scoreline and insisted the defeat would not derail the squad's broader progress. The post-match analysis painted a more uncomfortable picture than Carrick's measured tone suggested. Hull had set up in the same back three wing-back system that carried them through the championship playoffs the previous season, a system that had already proven difficult to break down. Hull did not concede in either leg of the playoff semi-final against Millwall, and they kept a clean sheet in the playoff final against Burnley as well. Sunday's match extended that run, meaning Hull had now gone 3 consecutive high-stakes matches without conceding a goal before this Premier League fixture. Individual performances came under scrutiny too. John Egan was singled out for man-marking Kuna, a duel that Egan won convincingly throughout the match. Hull were also missing 2 first-choice center-backs for the fixture, yet still recorded a clean sheet against a Manchester United front line. Mendy, brought in as a new signing, scored on his full debut, immediately justifying his price tag in the eyes of the analysis. The sharper criticism was reserved for United's physical condition. Several key United players were noted as having missed pre-season training time due to extended involvement in the previous summer's World Cup. Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, and midfielder Tielemans were all named as players who returned from the tournament later than teammates, cutting into their preparation time. The analysis was blunt about the visible consequence. I was amazed how many Manchester United players didn't look fit. Both midfielders, Tielemans and Santos, were specifically described as off the pace throughout the 90 minutes. One player was exempted from that criticism. Bruno Fernandes was praised as the one United player performing at a genuinely high level, with the added observation that his standout display only looked more isolated because nobody around him was matching his intensity. But the broader point about Fernandes carried more weight than the compliment. When Fernandes underperforms, the analysis noted, his drop-off is severe rather than gradual, and the numbers from Sunday supported the theory that his form dictates the team's ceiling more than any other player on the pitch. Fernandes himself addressed the defeat afterward, and his own assessment lined up almost exactly with the outside criticism. He acknowledged the pattern extended beyond this single match, describing it as the same mistakes from last season. He pointed specifically to United giving away possession too easily in away fixtures, adding that the goalkeeper faced an excessive number of touches under pressure as a result, and that set plays had cost the team once again. The historical comparison drawn afterward added further context to why this result felt significant. Older United sides were remembered not just for technical quality, but for an intimidating physical presence that discouraged opponents before kickoff. Sunday's United team was described as lacking that same fight, the exact quality that Hull City demonstrated in abundance across the full 90 minutes. Transfer business became part of the conversation almost immediately. Reports circulated that midfielder Carlos Baleba was set to undergo a medical ahead of a move to United. The reasoning behind pursuing a player of his profile was framed around exactly the deficiencies exposed against Hull, a midfielder capable of covering ground at high tempo, pressing aggressively, and closing down space, qualities absent from United's midfield on the opening weekend. Hull's perspective told a very different story. Manager Sergej Yakarovich spoke to TalkSport after the match about the motivation driving his squad. He referenced the doubt directed at Hull from former players and pundits, framing it as fuel for the season ahead. His comment captured the mindset directly. "We will try to prove all these people wrong." He also pointed to the difficulty of the step-up from Championship to Premier League football, describing it as anything but straightforward for a newly promoted side. The scale of the achievement was underlined by one specific fact. Yakarovich became the first Hull City manager to beat Manchester United in a Premier League fixture. The post-match analysis backed Hull's approach fully, praising the back three of Egan, Jide, and Mendy as dominant throughout, alongside a strong individual display from forward McBurney and a controlled midfield performance from Crooks. The broader assessment credited Hull's recruitment strategy for assembling a squad built specifically around proving a point in the top flight, with a level of collective desire on the day that was described as unmatched by their opponents. A fan text sent in during the broadcast captured the mood among Hull supporters. The message noted that the sender had predicted before the season that Hull would surprise a few teams, and jokingly suggested the club should be handed the Premier League trophy immediately. It reflected a wider sentiment building around the club following their playoff form the previous season, and now carrying directly into their first Premier League weekend in a decade. Hull's next 4 fixtures were confirmed as Coventry, Aston Villa, Chelsea, and Newcastle, a run that will offer an immediate test of whether Sunday's result was a genuine marker of progress or an opening weekend outlier. For Manchester United, the immediate questions center on fitness levels returning to normal, midfield reinforcements arriving before the next fixture, and whether Sunday's set-piece failures were addressed on the training ground before United's following match. If this breakdown gave you the full picture behind the headlines, that's exactly what Final Whiz delivers. Every match day, the context behind the scoreline, not just the score itself. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next reaction, drop a like if this was useful, and leave a comment with your prediction for how Manchester United will bounce back in their next game.